On June 18th, Scott Servais thought he was going to be managing deep into October. It turns out he didn't even make it to September. That's a turnaround.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. If you don't believe me, let me show you my lower third called Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is my sixth full season here as the Locked On Podcast Network host for both. This year, I'm doing both Locked On MLB and Locked On A's. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now. And I am at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And if you are listening every day and you're posting on the social media, be sure to use that hashtag EverydaySully. And there you go. Oh, by the way, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at SupplyHouse. You know where SupplyHouse is. SupplyHouse is the reliable way to get parts fast. Shop at supplyhouse.com for your next plumbing, h-vac, or electrical job and get fast shipping from coast to coast at supplyhouse.com. Hey, I didn't realize I had so many people stumped with my Manager of the Year question. I said, name who are all the managers of the year from the Marlins. And you saw Chev Chilios, 49, Jack McKeon, Jim Leyland, Joe Girardi, and Donnie Baseball. Phenomenal guesses. You got 3 out of 4. Oddly, the one who you got wrong was Jim Leyland. That's right, Hall of Famer Jim Leyland, who managed the Marlins to the 1997 World Series title, did not win Manager of the Year that year. Dusty Baker did. Remember, it's a regular season award. And the Giants stunned a lot of people by winning the West the final weekend of the series over Los Angeles. Jack McKeon taking over in 2003. He did indeed get it. Joe Girardi, who had a losing record despite I think their payroll was under $20 million. It was absurd. Donnie Baseball did in the COVID year. Yep. A lot of people guessed Leland. A lot of people guessed him, but only Big John 08865 got them all right. Jack McKeon, boom. Joe Girardi, boom. Don Mattingly, boom, and Skip Schumacher, all won Manager of the Year with the Marlins. It's so funny. I was looking at all the people guessing. I'm going like, yeah, you have to go all the way back to last year to find a Marlins manager winning Manager of the Year. Yeah, Skip Schumacher did. Remember, the Marlins were a playoff team last year. They were a fun, exciting team last year. They got whumped in the playoffs by Philadelphia, but still, they were a fun team. They played in October. Not for very long, but they did. And you wouldn't know that by now. But Skip Schumacher did indeed win Manager of the Year. But man, oh man, do things change fast. Now, I brought up the fact that Scott Servais was sitting absolutely high on the proverbial hog in heading to late June when the Mariners had a 10-game lead over a sliding Houston Astros. I talked about this yesterday. I was talking about how Giant fans are getting fed up with the strange managerial decisions of Bob Melvin, and Mariner fans should be pulling their hair out as a 10-game lead where they were a cool 13 games above 500 in mid-June, and they had a phenomenal starting rotation. So it was clear that it's not like they're going to go on a big slide, right? Well, from that 10-game lead to losing 33 out of their next 53 games, only the White Sox have been worse than them in all of baseball. Only the White Sox in that stretch, which included a 21-game losing streak, was worse. They are the only team that played worse than the Seattle Mariners in that stretch. Now, it didn't help their case that the team with the best record in the American League that stretch were the Astros. The two teams just shot in completely opposite directions. And now here we are. The Mariners are a 500 team heading into the series against San Francisco. And Scott Servais was relieved of his duties. And Dan Wilson, who was the starting catcher of the beloved refused to lose 1995 Seattle Mariners, the team that got to within 2 wins of the World Series after it looked like they were absolutely toast. And they beat the Angels in a 1-game playoff. They stunned the Yankees and won the single greatest postseason series of all time. Well, with a day off, I guess they figured this was the time to do it. And maybe with a new manager and at least a sense of accountability and playing a Giants team that is, your guess is as good as mine what they could be. Yeah, it's the time to do it. I don't like having people lose their jobs. I don't. I liked what Scott Servais did. The Mariners are one of my favorite teams. They're a team I really, really would love to see win the World Series. And this was his 9th season. He basically managed 8+ years. So it's not like he was given a short end of the stick. He's been the team's manager since 2016. And they had a winning record in 2016, where they won 86 games. They won 89 games in 2018 and contended for the wild card. They won 90 games and contended in 2021. They made the playoffs in 2022, winning that wild card series against Toronto. And they were in first place by themselves at one point last year. Who knows what would have happened if they had held on to that lead. And remember, they wound up being leapfrogged by Texas, who went on to win the World Series. Who the hell knows what would have happened to Scott Servais' career? But you know what? You can't drop a 10-game lead like this and fade. I mean, that's the other thing. It's one thing to just say, okay, they dropped a 10-game lead, and now they're tied. They've dropped a 10-game lead. They're 5 games back. They are 5 games back of the Houston Astros. Now, maybe one of the mindsets is this. Maybe that sense of accountability, and maybe there's like a little boost when you get the new manager coming in. They're playing a Giants team that's really weird. Like the Mariners, they could pitch. But like the Mariners, they seem very confused about what the hey they are. Then they'll be playing Tampa Bay. Again, a team that should be better. Then comes 3 games against the Angels. And the Angels stink. So maybe this is the perfect window of opportunity to pick up a nice little win streak there. Then after that, starting on Labor Day, the Mariners are going to be playing the A's for 4 games. Now, keep in mind, the A's are not a doormat. I know this. I'm the host of Locked On A's. The A's had the best record in the American League in the month of July. And they're still playing winning baseball right now, post All-Star break. And that could be the make or break moment of the season. But they have to go on a big winning streak. They have to do Operation St. Louis Cardinals 2021, where they went on a wild winning streak in September that basically put them as also rans into the playoffs. It's a tall order. But when you're heading into, there's a lot of, they had a 10-game winning streak at that point in mid heading into late June. But heading into July, I mean, the losing streak began, but they still had a 3.5-game lead heading into July. And you were thinking, all right, they got the pitching. Okay, they had a bit of a slump, but fine. They dropped 6.5 games in the standings in 2 weeks. I mean, that's going to be the part where you look back, that was where things just went absolutely sideways when they went on a stretch where they won between June 19th and July 3rd, they won 3 games. And then it turned into a comedy of errors. They had a losing July and a losing August with that terrific starting rotation. And I guess in the end, that was the nail in the coffin for Servais. And we'll see how Dan Wilson is. But once again, this is going to be if the Mariners don't make the playoffs this year, and they are a long shot at best, especially for a team that had a 10-game lead, then this is going to be yet another franchise where you have to take a good long look in this offseason to see who is going to be the manager. Accountability at least happened in Seattle. When we come back, we're going to talk about the total lack of accountability in what I think is the most disgraceful franchise right now in Major League Baseball. Hey, let's hear from our friends over at Liquid IQ. I'm going to be going to some ball games, but it's still really, really hot here in California. You got to stay hydrated. So how are you going to stay hydrated? You're going to do it by eating a lot of ice cream out of those plastic helmets or drinking a lot of soda at the ball game? Use Liquid IV. When you're taking in America's pastime, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV's popsicle firecracker flavor, a surefire summer hit. Get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. Because baseball and summer go together like Liquid IV and indulgent hydration. Blast off with the iconic summer flavor of popsicle firecracker, a festive blend of citrus-fueled lemon, lime, tart cherry, and raspberry flavors. Find all your favorite flavors on the website from acai berry, lemon, lime to pina colada. Tear, pour, and live more. 1 stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. Powered by LIV Hydroscience, an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients. Always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order with Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop for better hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. Now, let's talk about our good friends over at SupplyHouse. You know about SupplyHouse. It's a place where you get supplies that are made for the skilled trades. SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is a reliable way to order plumbing, h-vac, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folk in the business. Talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trademaster program. Every Trademaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from the free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, h-vac, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Hey, thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen. Your second listen, check out Locked On A's. Again, hosted by me, your pal Sully. Why would you follow an A's podcast if you're not an A's fan? We're having a lot of fun this year as the team is surprisingly competitive in the second half, but we're talking a lot about the potential move to Sacramento, the potential move to Vegas, and the fact that there seems to be zero organization, whether or not where they're going to move to. And we have some fun episodes where I go on location to Sacramento. I go on location to various places where the A's have tried to build ballparks. It's a fun show, and we're having a good time over at Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. All right, there's sometimes I don't understand how people keep their job. Some people fail upwards. Some people continually fail, and did I mention fail? And Perry Minasian, is it Minasian or Minasian? I've never said his name out loud. He is the general manager of your Los Angeles Angels, and he is signed through the 2026 season and as a club option for 2027. And he has been involved with this franchise for a long time, and he has been the GM and in charge of things basically since 2021. And the only way to describe this franchise over the last bunch of years is absolute car wreck. This will be written in history as one of the great, phenomenal disasters in the history of baseball. And I say that with zero hyperbole. 2021, the Angels did not have a winning season, nor did they have one in 2022, nor did they have one in 2023. And last year, and this year, they're bound to have another losing year. In 2020, now granted, they're playing in the AL West in the age of the Astros. Fine. I'll grant you that. I'll also grant you that in 2021, Mike Trout missed all but 36 games of the season. I will grant you that. I will grant you that there are times where it's tough to put a winning product on the field. However, did you know that in 2022, the Angels had Shohei Ohtani play 157 games, and he pitched 166 innings, winning 15 games with an ERA of 2.33, while hitting 34 home runs and having an OPS of 875. While Mike Trout played nearly 120 games with 40 home runs and an OPS of 999. Are you aware of that? And are you aware that their manager was Joe Maddon, who had led both the Rays to the World Series and the Cubs to a World Series title? That team lost 89 games because they did not put a mediocre team around Trout and Ohtani. They barely had any players who were worth their weight in fudge. Then in 2023, they once again got a full season from Shohei Ohtani, 135 games, a 304 average, an OPS over 1,000. And oh yeah, they got 132 innings in starting pitching. They didn't get a full season out of Mike Trout, but they got 82 games. And how did they do? They lost 89 and then had Shohei Ohtani walk. They had one of the best 1-2 punches in the history of baseball with Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. And they couldn't put a winning product on the field. And he was the general manager when that was happening. This is not a poor franchise. This is a franchise that has a lot of money. They draw well. For a team that can't put a winning product on the field, drawing $2.5 million a year? Are you kidding me? They should be drawing A's level. Because they're and this year, as of this recording, the Angels are behind the A's in the standings. Stop and think about that. This is a team, the A's have the worst attendance in baseball, and they have an ownership that is actively working to make the team bad so they can leave town and look like it was not their fault. This is a franchise, the A's, who are making, and I know a little bit about this. I'm following them on the Locked On A's podcast. This is an A's franchise whose ownership has made a calculated decision to not spend money, to not make trades, to make zero effort, because it's in their interest to have the fans not show up, to make it look like, well, this is why they're moving. And the Angels could fall behind that team. And we have seen that teams can rebound from injuries. The Braves lost their entire starting outfield, including their big MVP candidate, Ronald Acuna Jr., in 2021. And they had a losing record past the All-Star break. So how did they do? They won the World Series that year. You saw around the time Minasian took over the Angels, the Diamondbacks and the Rangers were 100-loss teams. In 2 years, those two teams met in the World Series. Last year, the Royals were a 100-some-odd loss team, and they're, barring a collapse, are going to make the playoffs this year. You can turn a team around. And you could do it faster when you have a Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani on your team. This organization wasted those two talents. And Ohtani said, I'm out. And they didn't even have the wherewithal of knowing that there was a better chance of Shohei Ohtani signing with the Lakers than with the Angels. And when they had a chance to maybe get something in return for him, they instead pushed their chips to the center of the table and said, we're going for it. And it exploded in their face. So the guy who had Trout and Ohtani has been rewarded. If you are a fan of any team other than the Angels in the American League West, you should pop some champagne out. The Mariners made the playoffs a couple of years ago, and they had a lead in the division late last year. If they had clinched that, then you would have seen, you've seen the A's won the division in the COVID year. The Astros have won the pennant in the World Series. The Rangers have won the World Series. The Mariners have advanced to the division series, and the Angels can't put a winning product on the field, and they've had the superstars. He should be, they should be pitchforks and torches chasing him out. Oh, and by the way, the Angels recently have consistently been listed as having one of the worst farm systems in baseball. So not only do they stink now, not only do they waste superstar talent, but where's their hope moving forward? And you know what they did? They rewarded him. That makes no sense. Even the most dedicated gym goers struggle with consistency. The commute, waiting for weights, other people's sweat, it makes skipping a workout very tempting. But with Tonal, our new sponsor, you can choose from thousands of workouts and train in a way that you actually enjoy at home. Tonal is the world's smartest and most effective strength training system that helps get you stronger. Powered by AI, Tonal learns with every rep so it can deliver workouts personalized just for you. Tonal learns from your movement and provides suggested weight recommendations for every move, detailed progress reports, and then they even create personalized programming workout suggestions or recommendations based on your individual goals. It's like having a personal trainer at home with you, as Tonal will optimize every workout just for you. Unlike traditional gym equipment, Tonal uses adaptive digital weight to advance your training techniques. From professional athletes to your pal Sully, Tonal is trusted by thousands who have become their strongest. Right now, Tonal is offering our listeners $200 off your total purchase with a promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Tonal.com and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off your purchase. Tonal.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Hey, this is a reminder that Locked On has created the first ever national sports and news channel. It's available on YouTube, and Locked On Sports Today is also available on the Amazon TV app, on the Amazon Free Fire TV channel. You could listen to Locked On Sports Today wherever you get your shows, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. All right, I got to address a couple of things. I've had some Brewer fans not exactly happy with me. The other day, some people thought I may have slighted them or was a little, I don't know, maybe not praising them as much as they could. Tony B. 1905 was a little subtle in his criticism of me when he said, "This host is horrible." Confirmed. He backhand praises the Brewers and ignore they just swept Cleveland, who he praised. MLB plays balanced schedules now, and he said a couple bad things. Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. I probably gave the Brewers a short end of the stick. The Brewers did sweep the very good Cleveland Guardians. And yes, I did say that one of the things that's helping them stay on top of the National Central is the fact that the other teams have underachieved. But I think that is also not 100% fair. I'm not giving the Brewers their due. They've been one of the more consistent of the contenders in baseball. They haven't had wild winning streaks, but they also haven't had big depths either. And yes, it is a balanced schedule. It has helped that St. Louis, Chicago, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh, all who have had a postseason shot at the wild card at one point or another this year, have all massively underachieved. And even though the Brewers have lost 2 pretty rough games the last couple of days, they had their bullpen absolutely collapsed on Wednesday, and then they were shut out on Thursday. They're still strong. They have a 10-game lead. And as we've seen from the Seattle Mariners, no team can blow a 10-game lead. But you're right. Maybe I have given them. In fact, RJ1123 said, I'm just wondering why you skipped over the Brewers in your final rundown of what a World Series would mean to each team. It's because I made a mistake. I actually think the Brewers are one of the most intriguing teams to win a World Series title. It's a franchise that's never won, but it's a city that has. Remember, Milwaukee has a more recent World Series championship than Cleveland does. The Milwaukee Braves won the World Series in 1957. The Braves probably should never have left Milwaukee, but they did. And the new franchise showed up when it was basically ripped from Seattle. And that's a whole other podcast. But the Brewers have never won a World Series. And I love it when a team and a franchise has that magical moment of finally winning a title. We had one just last year with Texas. So, I didn't mean to give the Brewers a short end of the stick, but they have to advance. Yeah, they've been in the postseason a bunch. 2018, 2019, the COVID season, 2021. They narrowly missed in 2022. And in 2023, they were eliminated by Arizona. They've got to advance. In that run that they've had recently, the only time they advanced at all is when they got to Game 7 of the NLCS in 2018. And they had a lead in Game 7 of the 2018 NLCS, but they blew it. Yasiel Puig, who should have won the NLCS MVP. So no disrespect intended, but if you felt it, I apologize. Let's just run down some of the scores. The Rocks lost to the Nationals 8-3. Corbin got a win. Good for him. Another day, another home run for Aaron Judge. Fabulous game by Garrett Cole. And the Yankees hit the Guardians 6-0. I mentioned before the Cardinals blanked Milwaukee 3-0, but the Milwaukee still has a pretty solid lead with a little more than a month to go. The Cubs want to hang around. They're hovering around 500, but they better go on a run soon. They clobbered Detroit 10-2. Listen to Locked on A's to hear my breakdown of Mason Miller and the A's beating the Rays 3-1 and splitting that series. Paul Skeens won again. The Pirates won 7-0. The Pirates are the most talented last-place team I can think of. The Angels are falling like a rock, and they lost to the Blue Jays 5-3. They're in dead last place by themselves. Arrighetti shut out the Orioles in what could be a playoff matchup between Houston and Baltimore. It was all Houston 6-0. Atlanta, give them credit. And Iglesias, give him credit. Holy thing, talk about someone who's having a terrific year. The Atlanta Braves wound up beating and holding the Phillies to a final of 3-2. But the real story is yet another perfect inning by the 35th consecutive perfect inning by Raciel Iglesias. That's like a perfect game and a half. And so if they have a lead late, it looks like Atlanta's going to hold on to it. And with that, they held on to their spot in the wild card chase. The Mets had a big rally late, Luis Severino, and the Mets defeated Dylan Cease, and the Padres still have a spot there. So there you go. That's the end of that. And with that, we're going to see some weekend baseball. So follow us at Locked On MLB on Twitter or whatever it's called now. And on Instagram, I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Talking about the Mariners saying goodbye to their manager. Talking about the Angels not saying goodbye to their GM. And talking about the Brewers, who I may have shortchanged. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.